The Ruby on Rails web app framework powers renowned platforms like GitHub, GitLab, Airbnb, Shopify, Twitch, and many more. Another popular choice for designing web apps is Tailwind, a utility-first CSS framework used by OpenAPI's ChatGPT, Shopify, and Loom, amongst others. In this video, I'll guide you through the process of setting up, installing, and initiating a new Rails application using Tailwind with Docker. First of all, you need to download and install Docker Desktop from docker.com. As a Mac user, make sure to select the right chip. As a Windows user, make sure to install and use WSL. You can view and clone the source code for the example from the GitHub repository at profunkhauser/examples. The link is in the description. We start from an empty folder which I've opened in my VS Code. As a first step, we are going to create a Docker Compose file with a single service which we call app. The service is going to be built from a Dockerfile from the same directory, which we will create shortly. To access the Rails server from our Docker host, we map the host port 3000 to the container port 3000. Further, we mount the whole project folder into the container path /app. Next up, we create a Docker file for our app service. As a base image, we use Ruby 3, which is based on Debian. Rails needs to be able to build native C extensions and uses SQLite 3, so we install the dependencies using the Debian package manager. Next, we create the folder /app to host our application code and set it as a default working directory. Then we update Ruby gems, the Ruby package manager, to the latest version. Finally, we set up the default command of the container to start a bash. Now we are ready to build and start a container with the app service for the first time. Once the container has started, we are ready to install the Rails gem. After the installation, we create a new Rails application and use the CSS flag to add Tailwind as CSS framework. Rails wants to create its own Docker file, but in this video, we will keep our own version. Now we have successfully created our Rails application project structure. When we build our container, we have to make sure our container image installs the app dependencies from the gem file and gemfile.log. Hence, in the Docker file, we copy both files into the /app folder. We then update Bundler and use the latest version to install all app dependencies from the gem files. Finally, we use Docker Compose build to build the container image for our app service. Now we are ready to start our Rails app for the first time. For this, we run a new container using Docker Compose run app and then start into the Rails console. If everything worked as expected, the Rails app will be started properly in the IRB interactive Ruby shell, and we're happy. Alright, so let's try to start a Rails development server next. For this, we override the service command in our Docker Compose file with Rails server. Then we can start our full stack using Docker Compose up. If we try to open up our server on localhost 3000, we can see that it does not quite work yet. This is due to the fact that by default the Rails server binds to the loopback interface at 127.0.0.1. So the server is only accessible from the same machine, in our case the same container. For a container setup, we typically want servers to bind to all IP addresses. This can be done by binding to the IP address 0000. The port mapping in our Docker Compose file will then make sure our development server is only accessible from the Docker host. If we now reload our browser, we should see the wonderful Rails welcome page. For a Rails application without Tailwind, we would be done now. But as you might know, Tailwind recompiles its CSS based on utilized classes. During development, it can make sense to watch files in the view folder and automatically recompile on any change. For this, we can set up a new Tailwind service which uses the same Dockerfile as our app service. It does not need any ports, as we don't start a server. As a command, we run Tailwind CSS watch, just like Rails without containers. If we start both containers, we can see that the Tailwind container starts successfully, but immediately finishes. To keep it running, we need to open up a standard in to the container and restart the stack. We can see that now both services have started properly. The server still serves the Rails welcome page, and the Tailwind watcher automatically recompiles the CSS when we change a class in any view file. Let's explore how we can interact with our application. To execute any commands on a command line, it makes sense to keep a second terminal with a container running the app service ready. We start this container using docker compose run app bash. In this video, we quickly create a simple post scaffold with a title and a body. We then run the migrations from within the same container using Rails DB migrate. Now we can create a post through the browser and then start the Rails console to explore the data. As a last step, we want to run tests from within our container. First, we look into the test fixtures, which will be loaded into the database before every test is executed. From within the post test, we can access the fixtures by using the table name, in this case posts, and the name of the record here 1. For now, let's just pretty print the object and run the tests. We can see the fixtures are loaded properly, so we can adapt them to create a useful test scenario. Once changed, the tests will fail, as it is missing the correct record name. We fix the error by adding a proper test assertion for the title of the post. A final test run now confirms our fixtures and tests are set up properly.